I was born to the sound of rope singing, rawhide reins rubbed smooth by my mother's hands, braided lines strung from a saddle horn to the world beyond the horizon. In our camp, the wind had a voice before any of us found ours. She combed through our felt roofs, sifted flour out of wheat sacks, and carried the names of horses farther and truer than a chanted prayer. This is how I remember the morning of my 16th summer, the wind tasting of sage and snow melt the mares heavy with milk, the colts all legs and lightning, and the sky so wide that even silence echoed inside it. My name is Saran, daughter of old Kulan of the gray herd. When I ran, the wind kept pace. When I laughed, she lifted me. When I spoke, she braided my words into her endless hair and shook them across the grasslands so that somewhere, days away, a stranger might flinch and glance up, knowing a girl had just declared herself alive. "Today you ride ahead," my father said, fastening the straps of his saddle. His knuckles were walnut shells, hard and polished by leather. "Count the northern ravines. We'll shift the herd if there's water still pooling under the stone." "It rained 2 nights ago," I said. "There will be water." "The steppe is a swift liar, little hawk. She drinks faster than any tribe." I cinched my girth strap, swung my leg over my mare, and felt the familiar flex beneath me. My mare's name was Smoke, dark as a thunderhead, with a star like a torn scrap of silk between her eyes. She knew my ribs like she'd grown them herself. I kissed my teeth. She shot forward, and the camp fell away in a spinning scallop of white yurts, blue smoke, and women in red headscarves stooping over milk pails that glinted like cut ice. Children ran, dogs yelped, men lifted hands, blessings, warnings, jokes lost in wind. I rode north, the earth a drum under the hooves, the grass bending as if bowing me passage. The ravines were a clutch of old scars where rock remembered a river. Now it was only a vein of shadow and stubborn puddles ringed by hoofprints and the pressed signatures of birds. Smoke lowered her head to drink, flaring her nostrils. Dragonflies stitched blue thread from puddle to puddle. I crouched and touched the mud. It bled cool around my finger. Water enough for the day, not the week. The herd would come, heavy as weather, and then we'd have to push them farther, away from the gentle swell of our familiar hill, toward the chalk cliffs that held rumors in their white throats. I let Smoke graze while I stood on a rise and watched the world move itself. Far to the east, dust lifted like a ghost. Not our herd. The dust was too narrow and tall. A spear point. Caravan, I thought. Traders, and with traders came coins that flashed like fish, bolts of silk petting the air, rumors of wars like distant storms, and faces that were maps without legends. I mounted and gave Smoke her head. We came off the rise at a long slant, catching the sun in our eyes, and the dust separated into camels and ox carts. Bright pennants hitched to poles, men in coats the color of river stones, a woman with a blue veil, wrapped not for modesty, but for heat. Bells on the camels' necks lit the air with tin stars. The caravan moved at a patient, ancient pace, like a long thought carried too far to stop. But on its left flank a knot of riders scouted ahead, and among them a figure rode a lean dun horse like it was the last true thing in the world. When he turned to look at me, I felt the look like an arrow passing the cheekbone. Clean, dangerous, precise. He was older than me by 3 or 4 winters, hard in the shoulders and soft about the eyes in a way that made me want to frown. He raised a hand, and the dun horse moved a half-step without being asked. Control like that is a poem I devour without knowing the alphabet. "Herd girl," he called over the bells and wind. "Scout," I returned. He smiled. "We passed a salt pan a day ago. If your herd tastes brine on the wind, turn them aside." The wind tells me that already. I tipped my chin at the carts. "What do you carry?" "Things you want," he said, "and a few you don't know you want yet." "Like what?" He tapped his breast where a rolled case hung under his cloak. "Paper," he said. "Empty roads that you can fold and unfold. You lay them flat and every place you dream of walking is suddenly near your hand." I laughed. Why would I want everywhere near my hand? His smile changed. Less show, more secret. Because it lets you choose. "Choosing is for people who stop long enough to think," I said. "We chase grass. Grass doesn't wait." Neither does the road, he said. It only lengthens when you try to finish it. He looked past me up at the sky. We'll camp by the broken ridge tonight. Your ravines, do they hold water? For you, I said. Yes, for the herd. Only if they kneel and sip like cats. He nodded, eyes sharpening at the horizon. I'm Erdine. Saren. He glanced at my mare. Smoke, he said. And the way he said her name told me stories about the kind of listening he did when most men were busy talking. We parted the way clouds part, without settlement, postponing rain. As I turned back toward camp, I heard the caravan settle into new shapes around the little water I'd found, ropes anchoring, poles sinking into soil, voices adjusting to the ground's height and stubbornness. I reached our hill at a gallop. My hair snapped loose from its braids, my cheeks salt-lit. My father squinted at me and at the dust flag to the east. Caravan, he said. They'll camp by the broken ridge. Then we'll graze the gray colts west tonight. If they're thieves, we'll meet them where we can outsprint their camels. If they're honest, we'll meet them where we can spend our coin twice. They have paper, I said. Empty roads. My father clicked his tongue. Paper burns, roads don't. But his eyes were not uncurious. He loved anything that declared its own map and then betrayed it. Horses, girls, spring. We moved the herd at dusk. The colts trembled like new songs. The mares rolled and stood with sighs so deep they shook the stars loose. Our dogs threaded the edges like clever thoughts. The caravan S-camp glowed to the east, pricks of firelight like holes stabbed in black silk to let heaven breathe. My mother tied wind knots in the ropes and hung them by our door. For words we shouldn't say too loudly, she told me, and for keeping away the kind of loneliness that knocks even when the tent is full. The night was glass. I lay with my ear to Smoke's flank and listened to the engine of her body purring. I dreamed a rope hung from the moon, and I hauled it hand over hand until the earth drew up like a yurt lid, revealing a great white bowl of milk. In the morning, my palms stung as if I'd truly climbed. At first light, the caravan sent traders like bees, humming into camps, warming their fingers around bowls of fermented mare's milk, smiling too wide or not at all. They spoke of pearls and pepper, iron needles, whetstones that sharpened thoughts, garlands of lapis that promised the wearer's childhood back. My mother traded coarse wool for fine needles. My father weighed a small iron pot and inspected its belly as if he expected it to sing. I drifted toward the east like a hooked fish. He was there, Erdine, cinching the girth of the dun horse. He looked up at me as if I were a fact he'd meant to look up later and then forgot not to love. I stood very still. Around us the caravan unfastened and re-braided itself. He slid a finger under the horse's chest strap and tested the fit. Ride with me, he said. Not like an order. Not like a plea. Where? Only as far as the ridge. I want you to see how the camels kneel for the load. It teaches patience in a language horses don't speak. Smoke has no patience, I told him. She and I hold our breath until we get what we want. And what do you want? I had a list. It was always the same. To outrun the clouds that chase their own shadows across the grasslands. To be the first to spot a well, the last to be spotted by trouble. To kiss the wind and have her kiss me back with rain. To choose how the ropes sang in my hands. But these were not answers one handed a stranger. They were knots you tied in your hair and let only the night unpick. To see the camels kneel, I said. We rode. The dun horse stepped like a promise. Smoke moved like a dare. We crested the low break of the ridge and looked down on the caravan S-Corps. The serious beasts with their garden of packs. The kneeling camels with their folded legs like origami secrets. The men in short coats shifting loads with a grunt and a joke. They groan like old men, I said. They carry 9 lives each, Erdine said. If I carried what they carry, I would groan too. You? I laughed. You carry paper. It must be like riding with feathers. Feathers sink ships, he said. So do letters. So do names. He patted his breast. There are maps in here that men would kill for. There are names that could be unhooked from boys and sewn onto other boys until everyone forgot where they began. I looked at him. He didn't look like anyone's names. He looked like hard sky and the color of stone when it drinks rain. "Who are you then?" I said. "If not the one your name says." "A courier," he answered. "Sometimes a scout. Sometimes whatever a coin, a rumor, and a horse conspire to make me." "And you?" "I'm my father's daughter until my mare chooses otherwise." He turned in the saddle to face me. "And has she?" "She has not yet seen a reason," I said, which was as close to a lie as I knew how to tell. Smoke and I shared a mouth. We didn't always share a hunger. We watched the camp complete itself. A woman lifted a kettle and tested its balance while a child braided its own shadow. A string of glass beads flashed like scales. An old man fitted a flute to his mouth and spit into it until it cooperated. In the west, the herd moved like weather, the mares cutting a ragged line through the grass. The earth was a long breath that hadn't yet found its release. "Come with us," Erdine said softly. The words blew past and then circled back like startled birds. "To where?" I asked, though that wasn't what I meant. What I meant was, what do you think you've seen when you look at me? What do you think you're gathering with those eyes? To the next oasis, to the city after that, to a road you can fold and hold. His hand hovered above mine on the reins, not touching. "Stay 3 nights. If you hate the way the road teaches you to sleep, you can ride home in 3 days, and the wind will remember your tent as if it were a song she forgot to finish. I have a herd. You have legs," he said simply. "You have a horse who will forgive you in absence. You have parents whose love is strong enough to sing across distance. And what would I be if I went?" My throat filled with something I couldn't ride past, like cresting a hill and seeing the sky stacked with storm and knowing you'll be wet who you are and dry who you are after, and both are true at once. "Whoever you are when you return," he said. "Or someone braver. Or someone who learned a gentler way to hold a rope." Sun struck the glass beads again and flared. I thought of paper roads folded small enough to disappear inside a man's coat. I thought of water lying thin in the ravines and of grass shifting its mind. Wind tugged my hair loose. Somewhere below us a bell rang and the sound walked a long way before it got tired. "I'll come tonight," I found myself saying. "Only to your fires. I'll listen. I'll see how the road talks when she's asleep." His smile was quiet and real. That's all a road asks the first time. At sunset, the caravan burned orange and copper, each fire a mouth speaking heat. I slipped into the circle of brightness the way a fox slips into a poem, wary, curious, greedy for the line that will feed her. Faces turned, measured, moved aside. A woman pressed a bowl of stew into my hands. It smelled of cumin and something with the clean bitterness of bark. Erdina sat cross-legged with his coat off, his hair rope-braided at the nape like a promise. He patted a patch of rug beside him, and I folded there. Smoke's reins looped over my wrist. She cropped grass with the blunt attention of horses who believe the world is, in the end, a pasture. "The boy with the flute is called Batu," Erdene said. "He can make a wild mare lower her head with a single note. The old man by the camel line knows a story about a pearl that grew inside a stone." "What about you?" I said. "What story do you know that I don't?" "I know that if you put a bowl of milk in the moonlight, the first reflection you see is the future, and the second is a lie," he said. "I know that some futures are worth the lie they arrive on. And you know how to make a girl step into a circle she promised herself she'd only watch," I murmured. "I invited," he said. "You chose." We ate. The stew was hot enough to kick tears into my eyes. I might have laughed, I might have cried. Erdine's sleeve brushed my wrist. That's all. A touch through 2 layers of fabric, a flick of warmth like a match struck and snuffed. I felt it everywhere. The wind leaned in to listen. The boy Batu lifted his flute, thin silver ribbon uncoiled into the dark. The camels died down into sighs with their teeth grinding crisp, steady patience. A woman sang a melody with bones in it, bright bones that clacked and let the fire breathe in their hollows. I shut my eyes and the world slid into the skin behind them. "Tell me something true," Erdine said low. "My mare is faster than you're done." "That's faith," he said, "not truth. Faith obeys the body, I said. Truth obeys the wind. Sometimes they ride the same horse. How does the wind want you to ride? He asked. I opened my eyes. His face had that look again, the soft around the eyes that made me want to frown. Lightly, I said, but not like I'm afraid to fall. Then that's how I'll ask, he said, and didn't ask at all. The night folded itself cleanly. Men shifted on their rugs, knives flashed to cut rope or fruit. The girl with the blue veil told me about a city with streets as narrow as a mother's hand, cupped over a child's ear. The old man by the camels finished his pearl story and then began one about a hawk that forgot its own name. Someone tossed me a scrap of paper, smooth as skin. I held it to the firelight and the faint ghost of blue lines appeared, then retreated. An empty road waking, then sleeping. I pressed it flat on my knee. If I listened hard enough, I could hear every place I had not yet stood, calling. Ride with us tomorrow, Erdine said when the fires collapsed into heat. I haven't talked to my father, I said. He nodded. Talk to him. If he says no, come anyway. If he says yes, come anyway. You give me 2 doors and both open to the same room, I said. That's a trick. It's a map, he said. It keeps you from pretending you have no choice. I hate you, I said softly, to see how the air shaped itself around the words. The air took them, folded them neatly, put them somewhere under my ribs where they could bloom into their truer shape. I hate that you make my body feel like a tent with all its doors tied open. If the wind is honest, doors are just windows that learned a different word, he murmured. Good night, Saran. My father listened in silence, which is how he always shouted. In the morning, the herd had already thrown its question to the grass. Will you hold us? The grass hadn't answered yet. I stood in the hard light with my hands wrapped in smoke's reins and said the words I had rehearsed but not believed. It's 3 days, I said. I can keep pace with them, learn a map, and return before the gray colts forget my voice. He stared at the edges of the world as if he meant to push them out with his eyes. The caravan has sharp pockets, he said. Girls fall into them and come out wearing new names. I have a horse who knows my old name, I said. She will drag me back by it if I forget. My mother stood behind him, her silence a second shout. She stepped forward and touched my cheek with 2 fingers. The wind turns and returns, she said, and that was permission, or prophecy, or both. Go, my father said finally. He did not touch me. His hands were busy with a rope that did not need tying. Bring me back a truth I don't already know. I rode from the camp with the morning cutting itself into thin knives on the dew. I didn't look back until I did, and then the yurts were white teeth, my parents small as beads. I put a hand to my chest to keep everything inside, and found it already moving toward my palm as if to be given. Erdine met me on the road. He did not smile at first. We rode side by side without a touch or a word. The caravan had already begun its slow rivering west. Dust rose, settled, rose again. The camels folded and unfolded their knees with the logic of old men praying. Dogs trotted with their tongues unraveling. At noon, a boy ran between the carts with a bundle of apricots like suns. He pressed 2 into my hand and flew away. Their skins were warm. When I bit, my mouth filled with the taste of a childhood I had not had, and suddenly did. You came back, Erdine said finally. I went forward, I said. He laughed then, head thrown back, and the sound jumped like a foal. I looked away too quickly and saw the road wedge itself into a narrow notch between 2 low bluffs. The caravan always knew the shape that would hold it. They'll ask you to carry something, he said. Everyone carries something. It keeps a caravan from falling apart. What do you carry? I asked. My orders, he said. My maps. Sometimes my heart, when I remember where I put it. He looked at me, and there was a new layer in his eyes. Some curtain lifted, some door held open. Will you carry a name for me? I frowned. A name? If anyone asks, I'm Erdine, he said. If anyone asks, I said slowly, why would I say anything else? Because if anyone asks, he said just as slowly, They might be someone who prefers the name Nergui for me. And if they prefer it very strongly, they are not from here, and we would like them to forget your face when they keep walking. Nergui. No name. The word dusted the inside of my mouth. I understood then why his coat had the look of a man who wore other coats, other faces, other roads. He was a courier, a scout, a man whose coin and rumor and horse conspired to make him exactly as visible as he permitted. I can carry that, I said. Erdine to me, Nergui to the wind. Good, he murmured, and the way he said it made my skin remember every time wind had reached under my shirt and made me aware of skin. They didn't ask me to carry names. They asked me to carry a bundle of silk the size of a child, and I took it. And its weight was not heavy, but it sank me through the afternoon like a second heart. I walked beside Smoke with the bundle against my ribs and looked at every man who passed me thinking, whose hands will unroll you, whose eyes will widen. What is softness for when the world is full of rope? We camped by a saddle of land where someone had carved a game into the stone and then forgotten the rules. Night rose, steady and precise. We ate flat bread fragrant with the ghost of yesterday's lamb. The flute learned a new song that made the camels stop chewing and listen. I did not stare at Erdine across the fire. I learned the art of not staring with such attention that my head ached as if I'd memorized a prayer. He did not touch me. That was the touch. The not touching was the flame in the hand and the heat and the refusal all at once. Somewhere under my breastbone paper rustled, the future unrolling and rolling again to a secret size. On the second day we crossed ground that had learned to keep secrets. The grass was sparse, the stones were many, and all of them had tongues. A cloud bank gathered at the rim of the world and broke without getting anywhere near us. By mid-afternoon, when the caravan declared its thirst aloud, Erdine nudged his dun closer to me. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "Water?" I said, though I only felt the ache in my shoulders and the wire of hunger in my belly. "Trouble," he said. I looked ahead. The notch in the hills tightened. The road there was the kind of road that thinks it's a gate. I tasted copper under my tongue. That is a taste the wind carries when she's about to learn new words. I slid the bundle of silk behind my saddle and took Smoke's reins shorter. The caravan compressed, every sound sharper, even the bell notes napped to an edge. The first rider appeared like a poorly kept secret, too clean, too sure of the ground. Two more cut their shadows against the lip of the notch. Their coats were dyed in the way that only city water can manage, that unkind uniform blue. Erdine didn't flinch. He didn't change his horse. He changed a small muscle near his eye, and suddenly he was Nergui to anyone who had never loved him. They rode down without hurry, which is a kind of hurry I recognize. The leader had a face like a wall that had learned to speak. "Courier," he said to Erdine without turning his head. He looked at me, at my mare, at the bundle strapped careless behind my saddle as if silk could make its own decisions. "And a friend," he added. "The road is generous with company. We're generous with trade," Erdine said mildly. "What do you want?" "The same thing everyone wants." The man let his eyes slide off me and return. "To finish the road we started." "Some roads don't finish," Erdine said. "They only forget you." I felt the wind lean forward. I felt Smoke gather slightly under me. I felt my mother's knots cold on my wrist. I said, slow as a rope being lowered into a well, "Erdine." The man's mouth didn't move. The knot of riders did. I wasn't sure what I had moved in the world, only that it was moving toward me now. "Erdine," the man repeated, tasting it with doubt. "We've heard him called other things." "We've heard the wind called many things," I said. "She comes whether you say her name sweetly or not." He laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh. It was worse. A laugh with no interest in cruelty because it had never found an obstacle it couldn't patiently walk around. "You'll come with us," he said to Erdine. "We'll ask our questions somewhere a story doesn't confuse the sky." "And the caravan?" Erdine asked. "The caravan will do what caravans do." The man made a small motion. One of his riders leaned down and plucked the silk bundle from behind my saddle with a courtesy that felt like insult. He held it the way you hold a baby you do not love. "Don't," I said. It came out too fast, the way a horse steps on its own shadow. The man looked at me, and for a heartbeat I saw something almost like apology. "It's only trade," he said. "The road is a ledger." Erdine's hand brushed my boot in what could have been an accident and was not. "Remember what we said," he murmured, so low I almost believed I heard my own blood. The blue-coated men turned their horses. The caravan opened a path because caravans know how to open when closing is too expensive. I tasted copper again, and then I tasted a decision. "Smoke," I said. She leapt, the most honest thing a horse can do. We didn't strike the man with the silk. We learned his reach. We didn't dash into the notch. We learned its width. We moved the way you move when the rope sings the high note no one else hears. We cut left, then right, then into a sliver of land not meant for passage. A camel bellowed like the earth pushing its voice through a horn. Hands reached, a whip snapped. Someone cursed me with expertise. I leaned so close to Smoke's neck, I thought I would disappear inside the place where her skin shivered against my breath. The silk bundle fell. It fell without noise, which is how silk falls when it wants to be found by the right hands. I scooped it with one arm and felt the weight like a heartbeat against my ribs. The blue-coated man swore, and the swearing tasted like a city fire I had never seen. "Run," Erdine said. But he didn't say it as a shout. He said it as a blessing. We ran. The notch tried to teach us about narrowness. Smoke taught it about speed. We slid through the stone's teeth and were in the small bowl of land beyond, dotted with thorn that had learned to drink air. I didn't look back. Looking back is for people who trust the road not to move under them. The dun horse came alongside. Erdine's face was a map of decision. "North," he said. "There's a dry wash that remembers water. It will hide a horse's mind, if not her hooves." We went north. The land learned new angles. The wind sang an old song in a new key. Behind us, the sound of pursuit learned hesitation. The dry wash took us in. Thorn drew thin red answers on my wrists. The silk bundle pressed steady and astonished to my side. I wanted to laugh or cry or tear the sky. I did none. I breathed the way a rope breathes when it is asked kindly. We halted only when the wash flung itself out onto a scatter of stones shaped like old teeth. We let the horses drink shadows. Erdine slid from the dun and put his back to a rock. He closed his eyes and was still for 3 breaths. When he opened them, his name had returned, the one that fit inside my mouth. "I should send you back," he said. "I should teach you the good shape of caution. I should refuse the gift you keep trying to give me." "What gift?" I asked. "Your presence," he said. "Your speed. Your beautiful, careless refusal to let the road decide who you are." "I didn't refuse," I said. "I chose." He nodded. He looked at my hands. "May I?" I thought he meant the silk. I held it out, my arms a bowl. He did not take the bundle. He took my wrists, turned them over, examined the Thorn-S red autographs as if the skin itself were a letter he needed to read. He blew on one cut as if it were a coal, not a wound. My whole body tried to become a place where wind likes to live. "Thank you," he said. Then simply, "I am in your debt. You owe me 3 paper roads," I said, "and the lesson of how to fold them so they don't decrease where a girl keeps her heart." "That lesson is a lifetime," he said. "Good," I said. "I was afraid you'd say it was a day." We hid until the light became the kind of gold that turns even a rope into jewelry. No one found us. The world released a breath it had been holding since morning. We turned back at dusk, when shapes lose their edges, and even pursuit thinks it has better work than remembering your name. We rejoined the caravan beyond the first curve of night. No questions were asked aloud. A woman pressed a strip of dried apple to my palm. The boy Batu played a note so low the camel's dreams bent toward it. The blue-coated men did not return, at least not wearing those coats. Later, by the fire, Erdine held the silk on his lap. He did not unroll it. He only rested his hands on it the way a father rests his hands on a sleeping child he will not wake because he understands what a gift is. He looked at me through the rising heat. 3 days, he said, reminding me of the promise I had made. I know, I said. 2 days now. What will you tell your father? He asked. Something true he doesn't already know, I said. That the road is a rope you can sing to. That the wind will eat your fear if you hold her mouth open. That a girl can carry a name for a man and not lose her own. And what will you tell yourself? His eyes were too honest, they cut me in the kind way. I will tell myself, I said, and my voice did not tremble. It learned a steadiness from his. That innocence is not ignorance, that entrapment can be a gate you step through twice, that soft romance is harder to break than bright steel, and that independence is not the opposite of love. He smiled. It was a smile from the first day, the secret one. Will you return to us? I looked at Smoke. She had tucked her leg under and was dreaming of a kind of grass even the road couldn't teach. I looked at the silk gathered like a moon in his lap. I looked at the wind making the fire's fringe snap with a braid of blue. I will return to myself, I said. And if that road passes this fire, then yes. He took the paper from his coat then, the folded road he had offered me on our first meeting. He pressed it into my hands. This one is blank, he said. You draw what you walked, not what you wanted. I want both, I said. Want is a map, he said. Walk is a truth. You can carry both if you do not confuse them. I tucked the paper inside my shirt, over the place where girls keep the kind of secrets that grow into their spines. The night was honest and large. We slept. On the third morning, I turned Smoke's head east and felt my body become quiet the way the steppe becomes quiet when a hawk glides low. I did not look back. Not because I was brave, but because I knew if I looked I would see the thing that would make me stay. 3 days is a song with a perfect ending. You do not add a verse because your throat wants it. Wind ran with me. I reached the camp by noon. My father lifted his eyes from the pot he was coaxing into a new tune. If you feed it only sugar, it will drop you when the river runs fast. I'll feed it salt, I said, and wind. We laughed, and the laughter had the sound of rope that has learned it will not break today. The herd shifted like the sea preparing a new shore. I slept the sleep of a girl who has folded a road and set it under her heart. In the morning, nothing was different. The sky was still a bowl so wide you were tempted to drink it. The dogs still pretended they were wolves and failed. My mother still sang to the butter without noticing she was singing. But I had learned the grammar of elsewhere. The way a tent door is not a wall. The way a choice can be a ride and not a theft. Weeks later, a hawk dropped a shadow that made the colts shy. Dust rose from the east like someone shaking a rug. I climbed the rise above our camp and shaded my eyes and saw a caravan moving with the patience of an old thought. A dun horse flickered along its edge. I did not move. The wind moved around me. She brought me the smell of cumin and silk, of paper and sweat, of coin and rumor, of a name I had carried and laid down without dropping. I did not ride to meet them. I did not ride away. I stood and let the world declare itself. Only when the caravan came close enough for me to count the bells did I lift my hand. He lifted his. The distance between us was exactly 3 days. It was also the space between 2 breaths, the fold in a road, the length of a rope taught to sing softly. My mare's ears flicked, waiting for what I would choose. I put my palm on her neck and felt the engine of her body purr. We'll ride at dusk, I told her, to water the grays. I felt his look like an arrow passing the cheekbone, clean, dangerous, precise, and I let it pass. The wind laughed and stole it like a trinket to play with. The caravan flowed by, a river that did not need my feet to be real. In our country, we say the sky is a lid you lift with both hands and call it a future. I have lifted it. I know how it tastes on the tongue. I know how to set it down gently enough that it does not shatter. I know how to ride with my doors open without letting the world steal my rugs. I know how to carry a name for a man and return it without keeping a piece for needlework. I am Saran, daughter of old Kulan of the Grey Herd. I am 16 winters and 1 road tall. My mare is fast enough to make the horizon honest. My hands carry thorn script and silk memory. I am innocence that chose its own teacher, entrapment that found the knot's loose tooth with my tongue, soft romance that refused to sharpen into iron, independence that learned how to take a companion's shadow without tripping on it. If the wind is generous, you will hear my rope sing. If you listen, the song will teach you a way to hold your own. And if one day a boy on a dun horse lifts his hand to you from the long thought of a caravan, lift yours back. Then decide nothing. Then decide everything. Then live with your doors tied open, and let the world enter only as far as you love it. That is all. The rest is paper, and I have folded it.